So I had a thought today while I was doing my shopping, which I'd like to share with you. This might seem a little bit odd at first, but bear with me and hopefully it will all make sense. I was putting some potatoes in my trolley and I got to thinking how much we like to categorise things visually. We're very visual creatures as humans. So you look at a potato and it's very obviously a potato. It's not an orange or a cabbage or a tomato or an aubergine, it's a potato. Now when it comes to martial arts, at least in the mainstream world, people also like to categorise them visually. So this is karate, this is boxing, this is bagua, and so on and so on. All these things have a very recognisable shape, because for the most part they're developed as styles, and style tends to be very visually orientated. Look at my stylish clothes, check out my stylish shoes, fill your house with our stylish furniture, make all your neighbours jealous, that kind of thing. Probably the biggest component of style is visual. So if we go back to our humble potato, we can do a few different things with it. I could use it as a paperweight, I could stick pencils in it, make it like a pencil holder, I could perhaps throw it at someone, or the more usual use, I can turn it into food. Slice it up and make chips, I can boil, I can roast, I can mash. I hear you can even make vodka from potatoes. Isn't nature wonderful? But of course, in order to turn that potato into chips, it has to undergo a process. So if we take a person and we want to develop them in certain ways, they also have to undergo a process. And in our case, Systema is the process. Systema is not the final result in terms of a shape or a style. It's an ongoing process. And the aims of that process, or some of the aims, are to equip the person in such a way to give them the tools, to give them the attributes to deal with whatever situations they need to deal with. So that could be something from as simple as learning to deal with your own stress and tension, fixing any sort of physical problems you have. It could go through to you fall off your bike or you fall over and you know how to land and manage that impact safely so you don't injure yourself. It could go through to protecting yourself against someone who's trying to rob you with a knife. It could be dealing with an aggressive person, calming a situation down, all the way up to the various different types of professional work that some of our people are involved in. So to skip back to the potato again, our potato has gone through this process and we now have a plate of roast potatoes. We can look, we can see, they're a certain colour, they're a certain size, they're a certain shape. What do they taste like? Well, if you've just landed from another planet and someone is showing you this dish, you have no concept of what it tastes like until you actually taste. So there, the understanding comes in the experiencing the result of the process. If you showed the alien these potatoes in an oven, in a little dish, and say, there, that's what we eat, they might not have a clue what's going on. So these things lie there and what they turn sort of a golden colour and then what? You have to explain how that end result comes from that process. But you don't understand that end result until you taste it. So I think this is very much the same with Systema and where a lot of the confusion arises. And I'm talking here about genuine confusion, not people just trolling or whatever they're doing. Because most of the time, probably 99% of the time, what you see in Systema videos, which are usually put out for other Systema people, is part of this process. You see people doing drills, some might look quite conventional, some might look very strange, some might not look at all obvious as to what's happening, but these drills are part of the process. They're working on developing certain attributes, they're working on developing emotional control, they're working on developing coordination, all these various things that go into this involved process. And these processes are ongoing. both inside of ourselves and of course outside, because our bodies are working constantly, processing information, processing incoming air and food to turn into nutrients, expelling waste, sweating through the skin, growing, moving. Everything is in constant motion. There's a constant process. The wider world no different, of course. The earth is turning, things are growing, things are dying. There are numerous, countless processes going on continually. And of course these processes all feed into each other. And the issue then becomes, if you think about it, for most mainstream people, their exposure to martial arts is primarily visual, through film, through TV, through seeing a martial arts demo, through watching combat sports. For most people, these are mainly visual activities that they watch. So I think what this means is, for a lot of people, martial arts becomes a very visually orientated activity. You want to see a cool move. You want to see a guy jump this far in the air or do a spinning kick, or you want to see a guy take some punches and give some punches back. You want to see the tension, you want to see the drama, you want to see the sweat and the strength. So Vladimir has often said, and I've got friends from a similar background who also have said, professionals look at this stuff with a very different eye. They're concerned with results primarily. They're concerned with efficiency. They're concerned with effectiveness, and they're concerned with ease of learning. And on those levels they understand that if you want to be capable in certain areas of activity, you need to undergo a process. What it looks like doesn't really matter. In fact, worrying about what it looks like can actually inhibit your development. This is why people are broken down and built back up again through certain more extreme processes, for example. Now, we don't necessarily have to go to that level in our normal everyday training, but nonetheless, this is what we do most of the time when we train Systema. We're putting ourselves into this process to work all these different aspects of ourselves and then our interactions with things outside ourselves. And one thing with that process is it's not at all designed to be visual, in terms of there's no concern about what it looks like. The aim of the process usually is to develop some kind of sense or feeling that might be tactile, it might be auditory, it might be visual, but the aim is not to produce a certain particular shape or technique. In that sense, it's quite internal work. So this in some ways makes it quite different from a martial arts style that has that very particular shape or method and rules about how you use the body. So then we get these notions that, oh, you guys in Systema only ever train slow, you don't spar, you don't test, all this kind of stuff. Well, we train at different speeds. A certain amount of the training is slow because we're working on that process, and slow training is one very good method to achieve that. Of course, we also work fast. You need to be able to ramp those attributes up to functional speed, and of course we also test in lots of different ways. Sparring can be a useful tool, like anything, it has its limits, depending very much on how you set it up. For me, I find the most useful type of sparring is goal-based, where people have a particular aim to achieve and we can set it up within those parameters. But any type of sparring is possible, really. As for testing, well, full contact sparring is one method of doing that, or guys can go in for competitions to test certain aspects of themselves, but there are other ways of testing as well. We can test our emotional control, we can test our fear management. All these things can be tested in various ways. Again, those are not the videos that tend to be put out because they're quite personal to the people undergoing that training. So to recap, if you're looking at Systema as some kind of style or shape, then you're going to miss it, because that's not what Systema is. Systema is the process, the ongoing process of developing ourselves into what we want to be, which I know sounds very sort of new age or whatever, but that's the best way I can put it, because it is also difficult in some respects to put this into words. just exactly as it's difficult to tell you what a bowl of chips tastes like if you've never eaten potatoes before. So on that food note, I'm going to take my shopping, go home, cook the family a nice meal. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the box below or get in touch via our Facebook page. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. You can also sign up to our mailing list, I'll put the link below as well, so you'll get news of our latest releases, books, downloads, as well as occasional discount codes, special offers, that kind of thing.